The Conjuring. You must have seen this horror movie, which has had 3 to 4 parts made. But have you ever wondered why this movie was made? Is it based on a true story? So in today's video, we will uncover the complete real story behind The Conjuring. And you will be astonished after learning the final part of the story. The scene shown in The Conjuring movie is 10 times more terrifying in real life, and it is one of the world's most horrifying, mysterious, and historical stories. To watch more horror, mysterious, and historical videos, be sure to subscribe to the channel. So this story dates back to almost 100 years ago. In New York City, a house named Amityville was built around 1924, which people used to rent. However, in 1974, something happened that led to this house being declared America's most haunted palace. What exactly happened? Let's uncover the real story behind it in this video. In 1974, a family named the diffain family lived here, consisting of 7 members. The oldest son of this family was Butch. After some time, these 7 people were reduced to just 1, as 6 of them were killed. The person who committed the murders was the eldest son of the family, Butch. Yes, you heard it right. It was the night of November 13th, 1974, around 3:15 a.m. At that moment, Butch, the eldest son of this house in Amityville, murdered his parents and 4 siblings in the middle of the night. No one survived, and no one could be saved. The reason no one could be saved was that Butch chose the time when everyone was asleep. He killed them all, one by one, in their sleep. A few days later, Butch went to the police and confessed to his crime. And when Butch was asked about the crime, he said some things that shocked everyone. He claimed, "It was my body that did it. Whatever happened, it happened through my body. But I never thought of doing any of this. I don't even know when and how I did it. I used to hear people's voices in that house, and I often experienced paranormal activities. That's the reason for their deaths. Otherwise, how could anyone think of killing their own parents? I had no reason to kill them." Then the court decided that he was mentally ill and couldn't be put in jail. However, the investigators clearly declared that there was nothing of that sort. In court, Butch was proven guilty and was sentenced to life imprisonment. He is still in prison today. The house in Amityville was left empty because everyone in it was killed, and it remained vacant for almost a year. Then, exactly 1 year later, in December 1975, the Lutz family moved in. The Lutz family consisted of 5 members, George and Kathy, and their 3 children. However, they were not informed about the house's history when they bought it. They were completely unaware of what had happened in the house and the tragic events of the previous year. It was only a day or 2 after they purchased the house that they were told about its history. The Lutz family, despite it being such an expensive house, could only stay for 28 days. During that time, they faced such intense paranormal activities that they had to flee the house in the middle of the night. The real story of what happened to them will shock you, as they experienced things they could never have imagined. In this video, I will tell you in detail about each day and the events they encountered. And when the family started living in the house, they noticed something on the first day. The house was unusually cold. Kathy and the children mentioned this to George, saying that it was much colder compared to other houses, even though it wasn't the cold season. They found this quite weird, but George ignored it. He said that perhaps the environment of the house was like that, or maybe there was an issue with the weather. A few days later, George noticed another strange thing, a foul smell in the house. He thought it might be because they had just moved in and the house had been closed for about a year, so it needed some cleaning. They cleaned the entire house thoroughly, but the smell persisted. Despite their efforts to clean the house, well, the foul odor wouldn't go away. And they couldn't figure out where the smell was coming from. The entire house had a terrible odor. By this time, the Lutz family had been living in the house for 7 days. This is where the horror part of the story begins. The Lutz family started to feel that the house was not an ordinary home. It was something different. How exactly, I will explain to you now. The youngest daughter of the family, Missy, would always tell her parents that she was playing with her friend Jody.
Hon, who are you talking to?
The girl who lives in my closet.
Huh? And what's her name?
Jody.
But who was Jody? There were no other children coming or going in the house. And there were no houses nearby, just a lot of distance between them. Even if there were nearby houses, no children lived there. So, who was Jody? The parents ignored these claims many times. But Missy repeatedly mentioned Jody in everything she did, saying things like, "I'm going to play with Jody," or "I did this with Jody." Kathy found this quite weird. When Kathy told George about it, he suggested that since Missy was only 4 or 5 years old, she might be dreaming about Jody and talking about her. However, Missy insisted that she could actually see Jody. Her parents dismissed her claims as childish, which turned out to be their biggest mistake. A few days later, the next incident happened to Daniel, the youngest boy in the house. Around 2 or 2:30 in the morning, he went out of his room to use the bathroom. While washing his hands in the sink, he saw a man standing beside him. Terrified, he ran back to his room and went to sleep out of fear. When he woke up and told his parents about the incident, he described the man, but it was clear that the figure he saw was not a real person. In this house, it became normal for windows and doors to open and close on their own, and for items to move around. These occurrences were felt daily by the family. George also started having frightening dreams about his children being harmed. Nothing seemed right. After 15 days of this unsettling experience, what happened next will shock you. While Kathy was working in the kitchen, and all the children were playing outside in the yard, she suddenly felt that a child had run past her from behind and was moving around in the house. The feeling was very real, and she didn't think it could be a false perception. She checked the entire house, but no one was there. However, she was certain that someone was in the house. Kathy was extremely frightened and was convinced that it wasn't just her eyes playing tricks on her. She began to feel that someone was listening to her and moving around her. She continued to notice strange occurrences every day. Despite these unsettling experiences, the Lutz family had now been in the house for 20 days. They didn't want to leave because they found the house to be a good deal at a low price and hoped that somehow things would get better. After 20 days, the occurrences had become so terrifying that things like windows and doors opening and closing on their own had become completely normal. Every hour, something would happen, and they couldn't figure out what, where, or why things were moving. There were even places where bloodstains were found. It felt as though not just 5 people were living in the house, but as if 100 people were there. No one could understand what was happening or what anyone was doing. Even visitors to the house started to sense these unsettling phenomena. Their youngest daughter, Missy, repeatedly said that it was Jody who was causing all these events. She kept insisting that Jody was responsible for everything happening. Given the seriousness of these occurrences and Missy's consistent claims, they could no longer ignore the situation. They began to accept that there was indeed something or someone else in the house besides them. After enduring all these disturbances for 28 days, one night things reached an extreme level. They witnessed events unfolding right before their eyes, and the entire family was terrified. Seeing all this, George decided to leave the house that very night. They left behind all their valuable belongings and fled, managing to save their lives. The story doesn't end here. Once the news about the Lutz family spread, public interest in the house grew. People began questioning whether the house was truly haunted and wondered if the spirits of the diffain family still resided there. To resolve these issues, the Warrens were called in. The Warrens had gained significant fame in America, particularly due to their role in investigating paranormal events as portrayed in the Conjuring movie. They had successfully addressed similar problems in various homes. The Warrens suspected that George might have fabricated the disturbances for financial gain and to tarnish the house's reputation. To verify the authenticity of the claims, the Warrens installed cameras in all the rooms to record any events. Among the photos taken, there was one that astonished everyone. If you look closely at the left side of the photo, you can see a boy who resembles the one who had been involved in the diffain family murders years earlier. The Warrens confirmed that George's claims were accurate, and the diffain family spirits were indeed still present in the house. The presence of malevolent forces was evident from the persistently foul smell in the house, illustrating the extent of the malevolent activity. Many people find it hard to believe in such horror stories until they experience something similar in real life. YouTuber Sam and Colby, who were skeptical, spent several days at the house to uncover the truth. They documented their experiences in 4 videos, showing the paranormal activities they encountered. If you haven't seen these videos, you should check them out, as they feature many unsettling paranormal events that might make you question what you believe. The next story is even more terrifying and will be featured in the next part. If you're interested in real horror and ghost stories from around the world, make sure to subscribe to this channel. See you in the next horror story.